I call to order the April 14th meeting of the Henderson County Board of Public Education. Will you please rise for the presentation of our colors from West Henderson High School, Army JROTC.
Right face, forward march.
Thank you, West Henderson JROTC. And now I would ask that you remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Okay, board members, the first item on the agenda is our agenda approval. You have the agenda in front of you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. And now we're ready for the highlight of our meeting, which is staff and student recognitions. Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, it's always a highlight, and we have quite the variety this evening to celebrate. We're going to start off by celebrating Flat Rock Middle School's orchestra, and Mr. Dane Lancaster is going to come up and share the good news.
Ladies and gentlemen, very proud to be here to honor Flat Rock and proud of Miss Jenny Quinn. She, on March 4th, she took her students to East Henderson High School to participate in an MPA. And for those of you who don't know, that stands for Music Performance Adjudication. Sounds powerful. It essentially is an EOG for her students. And she walked away, and her students walked away with a superior performance. That is the very best that they could ever achieve. And I can tell you in the days leading up to that, Miss Quinn was just a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious, but everybody at Flat Rock was like, Jenny, you got it. Don't worry about it, because that's how good Jenny is. The kids do well because of her. The kids do well because she's prepared, and she teaches them to be technicians and to not leave any stone unturned. I've watched her class many a times, and I wish I had been a musician just spending time with her. But enough about me. I want to introduce you to Miss Jenny Quinn. Thank you, Miss Quinn.
Next, we'll bring up Miss Laura Brigger and celebrate Hendersonville High School.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us this time to acknowledge the Hendersonville High School mock trial team. The mock trial team puts in countless hours of practice, including several all-day Saturday practices, so they're giving up their own personal time on the weekends too to practice for a mock trial. Our team went to Hickory. We actually sent two teams. We really feel like both teams maybe should have went to state, but that's another story. One of our teams did achieve that. Of the schools at the Hickory one, I know we're here to celebrate state, but at the Hickory regional competition, there were 6 possible individual awards for the whole thing, and Hendersonville High took all 6 of them at the regional level. And then when we were one of only 5 public high schools there. When we went to state, again, was there 6 awards, or was there more, Miss? There were more, but we brought home 2. Yeah, Hendersonville High brought home 2 individual awards, as you'll see up there. And again, we were one of only 3 public high schools. And when I say public high schools, that probably includes charters, which are technically public, but ones that only serve a specific district, and we don't get to pick our students. And so I'm particularly proud that we represented Western Carolina in such a high level of competition, and I'm super proud of our mock trial people. Come on up. You guys can, there's that one. Right here.
As we take your picture, you want to have.
Yeah. Miss Lewis, where'd she go? She not coming with us? Come on, Coach. She gave up a lot of hours.
So, one thing we do. Y'all liked it too, didn't you? Yeah. You want to get your picture?
But there's one for the team in general.
I'll make sure he gets it.
Yes. So in the picture, we'll start on the left. This is Evelyn Middlebrook, who brought home one of the awards at regionals. Then we have Riley Ramsey, Miss Lillian Middlebrook, that brought home not only a regional best lawyer, but also a state. So she's the equivalent of a athletic like state. Tobin de Guzman, who also brought home a regional winner. Sophia Zamara Hernandez, Lauren Hefner, and then Miss Liv Bridges.
So I don't know if Campbell and Shatley's recruiting, but you might want to take some of those names. Next, we'll call up Dr. Shepard. North Henderson High School has several honorees here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Thank you, members of the board. I'm excited to be here again tonight and celebrate some North Henderson Knights and some teachers here. If I can have down with me first, Mr. James Mondin and Citlali Diaz-Mar. Citlali, I was a little nervous. I saw your mom sitting down here, and I was like, where's Citlali? Mom's here. Mom's always here. And Mr. Decker, is Mr. Decker here? Is he at softball practice? He's got practice. Mr. Decker is also our head softball coach. I think they have a practice or a game today. So we're going to celebrate James and Citlali. James earned a top 10 test score and scored an impressive 99 and a 98 on his role play at the state DECA competition there for sports entertainment marketing, which led to a second place overall finish out of 245 students across the state of North Carolina. It's an outstanding performance. Congratulations, James. A lot of thick competition there, and now he is qualified as number 2 in the state there to go on to the national competition in Orlando, and that's going to be held on the 24th to the 30th. And that's going to be alongside 14,000 students from around the world competing there. So James is going to represent the North Knights in Henderson County and North Carolina very well, and we wish him all the best. One more round of applause for James. Also, Miss Sitlali here. We're going to have a couple of achievements here for Sitlali. Sitlali achieved a top 10 overall test score and earned a 98 on her role in the Principles of Marketing, securing a 10th place overall out of 300 students in North Carolina. Congratulations, Sitlali. I'm going to have you guys go right on over here with Mr. Garrett. Thank you. Sitlali, don't go anywhere. Come on. You're not embarrassed. You can turn around. Look at that. Your mom's over there. Wait, Mom. Sitlali has been named the North Henderson High School, North Carolina 2025. She's from North Henderson. She's a Knight. But she has been named the North Carolina 2025 Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year for the entire state. So that is a tremendous honor. So she will now go on to compete at the Southeast Regional Competition for the Boys and Girls Club of America. That's the headquarters in Atlanta. She'll continue to represent Henderson County Public Schools, the Fazio Boys and Girls Club, and the state of North Carolina. Congratulations, Sitlali, for continuing all of your achievements while a North Henderson Knight, especially during your senior year. Congratulations. And come on over here for another picture. Sitlali, you want some more hardware here? Thank you. Need help? Don't pull muscle. Okay, don't get injured. All right. Continuing on here, I would like to have down, we're going to, switching gears on me. Sorry, they got all these in front of me. I'm going to honor our, really our whole staff and school at North Henderson High School, but really starting with our school counselors. And so I have a couple of our school counselors at North Henderson with me, Miss Lee Like and Miss Natalie Anderson. Come on down. They did not want to do this, but I'm going to make them come on down anyways. School counselors play a tremendous role. I can't talk to you guys about the role of these two. We have another one, Miss Joey Wilson, and our registrar, Miss Katie Strickland. And just speaking to the parents, school counselors are the most important people in a lot of kids' lives and build so many connections, especially in high school, with just the amount of connections they do with students in their grades, working with their attendance, building positive relationships, a lot of academic skills, and building connections post-graduation. At North Henderson High School, we've always had a tradition of supporting students after graduation, not just while they're at North Henderson for 4 years. And so we always talk about the day after graduation. Are we preparing students for the day after graduation? We have been honored at North Henderson High School as a National School of Excellence. North Henderson was named one of only 26 schools of excellence nationwide by ACT's American College Application Campaign, a recognition of outstanding efforts that support students in planning life after high school. And so our school counselors with our registrar and our other counselors and really our whole staff pulling together plans a college application week. And we've been doing this for a really long time, so I was really happy to see our counselors, our teachers, our staff, and really our kids recognized for the efforts that go on to help students plan for the day after graduation and for really the college application week. So all the seniors come in and they participate in post-secondary planning. They do enrollment into colleges, enlistment into military. We provide apprenticeships and employment opportunities. All the things that we really try from K-12 in Henderson County schools is really built up to that senior year. And so it's really all the teachers and staff in Henderson County that build up from the elementary, middle, and high for these students when they graduate. We have events that include college reps, military recruiters, apprenticeships, coordinators, a lot of materials and support that are provided to our English and Spanish students. Lots of strong collaboration and work with our community college, specifically Blue Ridge Community College and CFNC. Ms. Like and Ms. Anderson plan all of this, and they work with our counselors, and they get all these folks here, and it's an awesome week. It's a very busy week, but they do a tremendous job, and it's all for the effort. That effort is for our students, and it's great to see them recognized and North Henderson recognized out of the only school in North Carolina that I was. The only school in North Carolina, private, public, charter, fake, whatever. We're the only school in North Carolina. And so that was tremendous for Henderson County, tremendous for these ladies and our staff, and I want to give them a round of applause. Where are you going? Can I get your picture taken over here with Mr. Garrett? Preserve this for All right. Can I have Mr. William Sigmund join me down here? All right. Mr. Sigmund, if you want to come too, he's our band director and happened to be his dad. North has a tremendous tradition of very strong arts programs, and specifically our musician, our band, our strings, wind ensemble, a lot of strong tradition in Henderson County and at North Henderson with a lot of students who achieve. Specifically at North with Mr. Sigmund has done a fantastic job. I've been up here many times to be able to speak to you and recognize a lot of all-state students. This one just happens to be his son. So that's kind of awesome, and it's awesome for us as well that he continues that tradition. William was honored as a freshman in an audition and was selected to the prestigious All-State Honors Band. On March 8th, he competed in the 9th and 10th grade level. William earned an impressive 7th place in the state on trombone. There's a lot of folks who go into that. He will participate in the All-State Clinic at UNC Greensboro on May 2nd and 4th, joining student musicians from all across North Carolina. So a tremendous honor, a lot of hard work that goes into that. So congratulations to Mr. Sigmund, and congratulations to William. Great job.
Thank you, Dr. Shepard, for sharing. Now, Mr. Manuel, come up and share a little bit about the Falcons of West Henderson.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you to our school board and leadership team for recognizing the following West Henderson students. First, we'll start with our DECA chapter, which is led by our wonderful teacher, Mrs. Garrett. Mrs. Garrett is somewhere back there. But she does a wonderful job with our students. West Henderson DECA chapter traveled to Greensboro at the end of February to compete with 6,000 other students from around the state. They came home with a combined 15 top role play and test score medals, 10 state finalists, 7 of which placed in the top 7 and received a trophy and guaranteed spot to compete at DECA's International Career Development Conference. Yes, congrats. This is not an easy feat. Each competitor took a 100-question test in their career cluster and participated in 1 or 2 role plays judged by industry professionals. And I'm incredibly proud of these students for their achievements. So we'd like to recognize our finalists. Starting out with the buying and merchandising team decision-making event. If Aubrey Garrett and Holden Hamlin could come up, please. Aubrey and Holden had the top role play medal. Aubrey Garrett had the top test score medal out of 113 competitors, and they placed third overall in the state finalist trophy and medal. So congratulations to these guys. You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Oh, Aubrey, here you go. Holden, here's yours. There you go. Thank you. Next up, we have hospitality and tourism team decision-making event. If Elijah Furr and Kyan Holden could come up, please. Elijah and Kyan had the top role play medal. Kyan Holden had the top test score medal out of 182 competitors, and they placed second overall with the state finalist trophy and medal competition. So congratulations to these guys. Next, if Carolyn Frampton could come up, please. Ms. Frampton had the top role play 1 and 2 medals with the Human Resource Management Series and placed 6th overall in the state finalists and trophy and medals. So congratulations to Carolyn. Next, if I could have Jake DiBiase and Matthew Lupo up. Congratulations, Jake. Both of these guys were involved with marketing, management, and team decision-making event. Jake and Matthew had the top role play. Matthew had the top test score medal out of 116 competitors, and they placed 7th overall as a state finalist. So congratulations to these guys. Next, Zach Cohn. Not here. Okay, Ms. Garrett, we'll get Ms. Garrett to get it. Zach, who's not here, but he did place 9th overall in the Principles of Business Management and Administration out of 114 competitors. Congratulations to Zach. Travel and Tourism Marketing Team Decision-Making Event, Christian Acosta and Royce Johnson. If you could come up, please. Christian, congratulations. Royce, congratulations. Thank you. Both of these individuals were in the Travel and Tourism Marketing Team Decision-Making Event out of 93 teams. They had the top role play medals, and Christian was the top test scorer out of 186 competitors and placed 9th overall in the state finals. Congratulations, guys. Thank you. There is more. So one of the things which is good, West Henderson DECA achieved the Thrive level, the highest international level in both our memberships and chapter campaigns. They also received the Gold level chapter of distinction, one of only 2 chapters in this Blue Ridge region to receive this honor. And that is, again, these credits to these guys on their hard work, but also the wonderful teacher, Mrs. Garrett. One more special recognition we'd like to have is Miss Aubrey Garrett, who's outstanding student at our school. She was the North Carolina DECA's Blue Ridge Region and Vice President this past year. In her role, Aubrey served as the voice of our region, representing students with professionalism and poise. She played a key role in leading the opening session to these ceremonies at both award sessions at the State Career Development Conference, and moments that inspired and energized thousands of the members across the state. And Aubrey exemplifies the true spirit of what DECA means, and we're very proud of her. Congratulations to Aubrey on that. Thank you. They will be traveling, 7 of the top competitors, to the Career Development Conference, April 25th through the 30th, along with 23,000 other students. So we wish them good luck and great job. Thank you, guys.
Like the last photo, guys. Let's go.
Next up, we have all-state band recognitions from West Henderson. And so I'd like to recognize the following individuals: Teague Atwell, Sydney Hart, Bradley Solano, and Ellie Drake, if you guys could come forward. Want to mention that these guys auditioned against the best students across North Carolina, earned a seat at the All-State Band. Students must earn a top seat in the All-State District Band before they even have a chance to audition for the All-State Band. These students perform memorized scales, a solo and sight read piece of music they have never seen before after only 60 seconds of silent study time. So you can imagine how that is, how hard that could be. They will perform as members of a 93-piece ensemble at UNCG during the first weekend of May. They will be led by a national recognized college band director and will perform a concert only 2 days after rehearsals. We are very proud of them. Also to the band director, Mr. Clace, who is here as well. Yeah, Mr. Clace is right here. Does a great job as well. And we're proud of them for representing our school, our band, our school, and also our community at West Henderson. So congratulations, guys. Thank you very much.
So lots of great individual successes to celebrate. So let's give them all a round of applause one more time. This next award is a team award, and one that I'm really proud to stand up here and present, and one I was proud to attend a conference a couple of weeks ago and receive on behalf of the district and really the administrators and the leadership in the district. The North Carolina Association of School Administrators each year hands out a Raymond Sarbaugh Leadership Award. This year, it usually goes to an individual who has really gone above and beyond and shown for leadership in educational circles. The award before has gone to retired superintendents and legislators and different people who have been advocates for public schools in North Carolina. This year, in a surprise announcement, they honored 11 Western North Carolina districts based on the performances and the response during Hurricane Helene. So we did not know this. But this is the first time that I know of they have done this as a collective. So what I wanted to do was just share a couple of things about the award, but really about the team that we work with each and every day and the team that serves our students each and every day. So Henderson County was included in this, and we accepted it on behalf of the recognition of all our teammates, but really the extraordinary leadership and service demonstrated during the storm and throughout the recovery. In the aftermath of the hurricane, our district and others transformed the schools into emergency hubs, providing food, shelter, resources to the community, even as many staff members face personal loss and still deal with those personal losses today, exemplifying the essential role of public schools as the heart of their communities. And what I wanted to take a moment to share was that from day one, our folks were out finding their kids, working, finding their staff members, seeing what could be done, evaluating their own schools, and sometimes at the detriment of their own homes. And that is just, the kind of service leadership that doesn't get paraded around a lot. They don't want a ton of recognition for it. And I just really am in awe of what I saw in the days after and continuing 6 months after the hurricane hit our region. So I was very proud to accept the award there, the picture on behalf of our colleagues out in the district, teachers, support staff, everybody who came together. But most importantly, in this occasion, I want to honor our administrators. They met with me face-to-face every day. They came and helped us organize how we knew that we were getting power back, services. They made contact and organized to make contact with their kids, making sure they could find all of their staff members, all of their kids. When the kids couldn't get, or the families couldn't get to the resources, they got the resources to the families. That did not stop. That was a tireless effort that was not a 8 to 3 job as they think teaching is sometimes. It went well into the late night. It went well over to the weekends. I know in the first 2 weeks, we had to run some of them off and make them go home, even as we knew they were tired. So this NCASA Raymond Sarbaugh Award says the district and administrative team of Henderson County Public Schools, and I could not be prouder. So all of you who are here, please come up and join me. That's you all too. That's you all too. I'll let you home and go get your picture. I don't need it. I already had my picture. Yeah. Peggy, come up. Peggy was right in the middle of it with the Ed Foundation.
Go on up there with your team.
See, I sit in the chair.
Go on up there.
He told me no. You can't tell her.
That's right.
All right.
Probably do it once.
All right, guys. Look here. Mr. Moore, I can't see you. Sorry. All right. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
So again, congratulations to all those we were able to honor today, and thank you for the time and opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and thank you, students and parents and community members who come together to celebrate these outstanding accomplishments. And I really, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you. These kind of accomplishments do not happen by chance. It takes a lot of hard work and effort on the part of students, of course, parents, making sure they get back and forth to these extracurricular events and practices, and our staff. You guys spend tireless hours and just work so hard for these students. And I just want to thank you. Okay, so we are now at the part of our program where we have our program highlight. And today we're going to talk about the Sources of Strength Peer Mentoring Program. Mrs. Alton.
All right. right, we are very excited to be here today to talk to you about our sources of strength and what we learned at training. So I am Shannon Otten, the Director of Student Services with Henderson County Public Schools, and I have two amazing people with me. Cassidy Dillon is one of our behavior specialists for the county, and Melissa Whitmire works for the Henderson County Department of Public Health, and she is our community health division, and she oversees our behavioral health in Henderson County. So today we are going to tell you a little bit about our week-long training that we've all been to. It is the pre-training for Sources of Strength, and how we learned that Sources of Strength can work within Henderson County Public Schools. So when we initially started, I'm gonna have to learn how to use that too, because I'm not sure, but I don't need it changed yet, but just push the green button. Okay. Just this one right here? Okay, got it. Okay, so when we initially started looking at peer-to-peer mentoring programs that would fit best for Henderson County Public Schools, we loved the Sources of Strength program because not only was this model backed by research and evidence-based, but it was empowering our students by equipping them with a strength-based approach that focuses on connectedness, engagement, and positivity. And so that's something that we always want in our schools. So one really big piece of great news for us is that we live in a wonderful community where people want to help us through partnerships. And so through our community partners, Education Foundation, Advent Health, and through some grant funding through Project Serve and our Community Foundation of Henderson County, we will be able to implement this program in 7 of our high schools and middle schools over the next couple of years. And then with the train the trainer models, where we got trained and will continue to be trained, we will be able to implement them into the rest of our schools with just us doing it. So we'll talk a little bit about the training process and everything, but right now, enjoy as we tell you a little bit about Sources of Strength. Here's Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Melissa Whitmire. I am a public health strategist for behavioral health for the Department of Public Health. So as you look at the slide, we think about this as a river that runs through our communities. And this is really an analogy that we use in the prevention world to look at what we call root cause analysis of what happens. So when we think about the river here, we think about people that may fall into the river. And so in a post-vention environment, this is where people may fall into the river and drown and go over the waterfall. In the intervention phase, this is where we might be teaching our young people how to swim. And in upstream, it's where we are fixing bridges that we see might be broken. In my world, I have been in the field of suicidology for about 25 years, working on federal research grants with various universities. And most of my career, I have worked in the waterfall. So working in systems where we are teaching clinicians how to intervene in suicide, working with school systems in post-vention environments where they've lost students, training communities, university systems, police departments, hospital systems. And what the Sources of Strength does, and we have been watching it over the last 20 years, is it builds an upstream model in school systems. And so it was really exciting to go to the training as we began to learn about how our students can become more connected and build the strengths in their life to keep them protected. What we have seen is incredible outcomes in school systems that have built the Sources of Strengths. So we see lower rates of bullying, lower rates of substance use, lower rates of depression and suicidal thoughts because they are connecting way earlier up in the river and helping each other to build a program that's incredibly successful. So we're excited to bring Sources of Strength here to help our students connect with each other and build this upstream program.
And so, as Melissa said, this is a program that's been in place for over 20 years. And during that time, different youth, different adults have been consulted to kind of figure out what are your sources of strength. And this is sort of the wheel that identifies 8 different sources. So most strengths can fall into one of these 8 categories: physical health, mental health, family support, positive friends, mentors, healthy activities, generosity, and spirituality. So the goal of this program is to kind of tap into each of these individual sources.
Okay, so in the Sources of Strength model, what we're doing is we are training adult advisors within the schools. Our hope is to collaborate with our community partners. We have partners through the Henderson County Education Foundation and their Pathfinders program, so identifying mentors that can work with the Sources of Strength program so they have and build trusted adults. We also will work with our Partnership for Health here in Henderson County, so many of the human service organizations, our behavioral health organizations, to make sure that our students are connected when they're identified by their friends or a trusted adult. And so the adult advisors and the identified peer leaders come together to build a club of Sources of Strength. And what they're doing in these clubs is they are working through campaigns within their school system. And that campaign could be, tell us about your trusted adults, or tell us how you're connected with one another. But it's a way for them to be able not only to inwardly think about their own strengths and build them, but also to create a system in the school where they're helping to find strengths within the school system. Through all of that, what we see is positive change that happens within school systems implementing Sources.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the process. So the three of us have been through the pre-training, and then our next step is to get buy-in. So we will talk to the principals at the principals meeting and, talk about the program and how we want to implement it and work with them. And then it is gaining buy-in from our peer mentors or our peer leaders and our mentors. So we will work to gain people from each school that we are implementing it. It is not going to be an overnight process where we just say, okay, 7 schools, here we go. We're going to kind of do one at a time. And once we get it under our belt and feel like we can do more than one at a time, we'll do more than one at a time. But we're going to take it slow and make sure we do it right so that we know what we're doing for the next one and the next one down the road. And then we will have a training. And so both the peer leaders and the mentors have to go through a training. So the adult advisor training, our mentors, is a 3 to 6 hour training. And the peer leader training is a 5 to 6 hour training. And so what the training will be is we, 2 of us at a time, will go into a school and we will co-lead with 2 people from the Sources of Strength national team, and they will come out and co-lead with us and train the peer leaders and the mentors. And then after that, it becomes the peer leaders coming up with different campaigns that they want to use. And we'll talk to you a little bit about the campaigns in a second. And then as we go through each time we go through a successful campaign or something happens great, we do lots of celebrations. And then at the end of the year, we will start recruiting again for the next year. And that will be the peers doing a lot of the recruiting. And we'll regroup and start over for the next year. So, I'm going to let Cassidy talk to you a little bit about the campaigns.
So there are some templated campaigns that the peer leaders can pick up and run with. And my favorite thing about this is that it's student-led. So the adult advisors are really just there kind of acting like bumpers to make sure that we stay within the realm of reality, right? But these are some of the types of campaigns that students could pick up and run with. The first one would be kind of getting the word out. So what is Sources of Strength? How can we get people interested in this, get people in our schools to buy into it? Some other examples are connection, so thinking about how am I connected to the school? And then my favorite, the We Belong campaign, really just that sense of community within the school and feeling like I'm accepted here at the school. So these are just some of the examples of, again, those campaigns that, and it's not an exhaustive list, so students could come up with their own, but doing some of the work for them. And in those campaigns, there are a lot of different modalities that students can, again, since it's student-led, they can pick up and run with what they're comfortable with. So you can see on this image, there are a lot of different ways that the campaigns could be run, tapping into a lot of different strengths that individual students may have. So you may have someone skilled in making videos that they could share with the school, or presenting, or maybe we're soliciting gratitudes at lunch, that sort of thing for an all-school activity.
So here are some examples of some of the campaigns, and the ones that you're seeing here, I think one on the left is one Cassidy's group worked on, and it was getting the word out. So they had to come up with a step-by-step process of how that campaign was going to go. And then the next one, they called the Fam Bam. And so what they do is they find trusted adults that kids feel like are trusted adults that they want to say great things about, and they'll put their puzzle piece in the middle and just kind of say great things about what they have to offer the kids around that. So these are some examples of some other ones where you just put the color wheels, and basically the purpose of this is to find your source of strength within each of the colors. So if somebody is struggling with something physical health, we say, you know, we know that all of us have struggles with physical health at sometimes. What are some of your sources of strength that help you get through that time? And so that's what they're discussing. They're not going, you know, deep into the stories and letting people share, like, that's what a counselor's for, that's what the therapists are for. But for this program, they're finding their strengths that help them move through when they face tough times. So this is where their strengths come out. And then here is like a couple of examples of sources of strength Spirit Week. So like they could do yellow versus red, or dress like a mentor day, or matching Monday where you twin with a friend. I mean, there's lots of different activities that we watched in different videos too. So it was really neat to learn about this. And then just some visual campaigns, like they would take, they'll make a chain, anything, it's called a grateful chain or something like that, where everybody writes something they're grateful for, and then the spirit chains go throughout the school, and it's really kind of neat. Or you write some things on puzzle pieces of how we fit together, how we belong. And so it really increases the culture of the school, the connectedness of the kids with adults, but also with their peers too. And this isn't something where we just take the leaders of the school. We are taking kids from every different part of the school. We want everyone to feel represented. So we're getting kids from all over. We are taking like teacher recommendations, or if kids say, you know what, this kid would be really good because they know that group of kids. We want to make sure everybody's represented, and that's the purpose of this, to get kids to all feel like they belong. And this is just the chains throughout the school. We thought that was really neat to see one of the high schools with the chains throughout the school. So, what questions do you have for us? So, we are not asking you guys for any money because we went out. And I was supposed to actually tell you about that a couple slides back, but. So basically, we got money from Project Serve, the Department of Ed, paying for all the training. And the training is the expensive part. So basically, to go do the pre-training and then the training and everything like that, we have full funding from them. We also, the Community Foundation is coming through to help us with some other funding, just like tying up the pieces. Once we got to meet with some of the other school systems that have implemented this, we found they said, oh, you really need to include this and you really need to include that. And we didn't put that in our original grant. So we went and asked the Community Foundation. And so they're getting us money. We also have some outstanding money. And we also have in that first grant a crisis counselor also to help out at the different schools as needed for at least the first year. And then we will ask for additional funding if needed. We also have some outstanding things in a Project Serve disaster relief that we're waiting to hear back from the Department of Ed on, so we just don't know about that. But really, everything that we've talked about can be fully implemented with what we've already received. We just want to continue to make sure it's sustainable and everything like that. That's why we're asking for more. So, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you think Henderson County Public Schools and our area would need something like this?
So originally, when we were looking, and you guys chime in as needed, but originally when we were looking at this, we were looking at peer-to-peer mentoring programs, but we were also looking at suicides within our region. And in Henderson County Schools and our neighboring counties also, we had suicides, and we wanted to kind of talk about how we can help our kids. How can we do this? And we thought that this program was a suicide prevention program only. But the more we learned, it starts way upstream, like Melissa said. And so it is not dealing with the postvention and really even the intervention yet. It's really giving them the tools that they need to be successful before we get to that. So that is why please step in. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in 2023, our Surgeon General identified that we are in an epidemic of isolation and loneliness. This has been going on for a long time, pre-COVID. But what we're finding is, as I'm sure this isn't going to surprise many of you, a lot of our students sit behind phones, aren't connected. And this is a program that really tries to connect our youth, right? To really look at the root cause of what's happening. And the root cause is they need to get more connected, get involved, be together. This is something that does that. And as Shannon said, we really try to find those students that bridge the gaps of different groups so that we can bring all the kids into the sources of strength so that they have a safety net underneath them. And we find that if we're doing things way upstream, we have fewer kids that are farther down the river. And so this is showing great outcomes. A research article just came out that showed that in school systems that implemented this, they saw suicide ideation reduced by 29% in the school systems. So it's got phenomenal evidence behind it and really positive messaging that brings our kids together quickly.
Now, have you already decided which school you're starting with, and do you have a set plan going forward of which schools and how you're doing that?
So we have some ideas, but I don't want to move forward without involving the principals and the admin teams. So it's really important that we want to have their buy-in, their student services teams at the school buy in there, and then some mentors that want to move forward. So, we have some ideas, but we want to kind of talk to the principals tomorrow and see what they're interested in. So we do have that on the agenda for the middle school and high school meetings tomorrow.
Have you or will you be trained in suicide prevention?
So we've actually been trained in suicide prevention. My whole student services team has been trained by Ms. Whitmire. And that was on February 14th, and then we've had several other trauma and resiliency trainings as well. So this year has been the year of the trainings for our student services team, for sure.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Alton. We look forward to hearing more about this.
And I want to take the opportunity to thank the Health Department and Melissa's partnership here. This is a community issue, and they've been alongside helping guide us along the way and making sure that we're connecting in and using all of our resources wisely. So thank you.
That's great. Now on our agenda, we are down to board members' observations. Board members?
I just wanted to say it was nice to be able to see, if you didn't know, our elementary schools just recently participated in their robotics competitions with each other, and that goes hand in hand with our STEM programs at our schools and across our district, and they all did really well, and it was really nice to be able to see the different schools and the kids and the projects that they worked on. These programs are done with, they have a teacher, but they also have an assistant, and that's a spouse. That is, in some cases, custodians, it's other teachers, it's other parents. So being able to see the community come together and starting from our youngest kids, and Henderson County just values their STEM program. I know all of us in this room do, and it's spread out throughout our schools, and it's been so encouraging to see these kids' minds open to hands-on projects, not so much, staring at a screen, and you just talked about everything being, on their phones, but being able to see these hands-on projects where they come together and are connected and seeing what other schools are doing. So it was really nice to get to see that and to see how our STEM programs are being utilized in our elementary schools.
Anyone else?
He's going to be mad, but so I went on a school visit with Mr. Garrett on Wednesday. Ms. Campbell and I did, and we went to Hendersonville High, and he won't even look up. He's never one to take recognition, but to be in those halls with him and have him call out students by name, particularly some of our EC students, and he knew who they were, and talking to him, it is just, it almost moved me to tears, just seeing you interact like that, and just making all those students that we encountered, but especially those, make them feel special and know, like, this student's last year with us. I mean, you knew everything about him, and it was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
It beats being at board meetings, I must say.
Anyone else? Mr. Garrett, I will have to commend you for your visibility in the community and within our schools, and we do appreciate that as you exhibit your leadership. I don't know how you really run a school system if you're not in those schools frequently and knowing what's going on, but also communicating, collaborating with our community partners. So with that said, we are now ready for public comments. We have, well, let me just say this. Board members, I appreciate you being here since noon today, working on our budget. And then we went in and had a brief closed session, and now we're back out again into open session. So I did want to tell you how much I thank you for that dedication. It is that time of year. We have, I think, 8 or 9 comments, public comments. And so I would ask our public speakers, if you will, please use only the 3 minutes allotted. If you see you're running out of time, I will assume that you know how to close yourself down, and please observe those 3 minutes. And I will call 2 speakers at a time. The first one, please come to the podium, and the second one, be on standby. So first we have Sheila Clendini. I may have reversed the order of them. You win today. And you're going to speak about funding.
I'm speaking about funding. I know you guys have spent your entire day thinking about it. And I know it's not easy, and I give you my very best wishes to the staff and to board members as you face the really tough decisions you've got to make. But I want to remind us that as it happens, and it's really no secret, there is a neglected funding stream that's been discussed and adjudicated since 1997 here in North Carolina, and that's the Leandro case. I know it's complicated, but as we recall, in 2022, the Supreme Court of North Carolina once again ordered that the General Assembly here fulfill its constitutional obligation to fully fund public education for every school child in the state. Then, elections having consequences, of course, the newly elected Supreme Court in 2024 decided to rehear that 2022 decision, and today we still await the results of that hearing. So, according to the figures that I've found in Every Child North Carolina, in 2022, Henderson County Public Schools K-12 would have received a projected $27 million of Leandro funding over a course of 5 years. That's a lot of staff, it's a lot of supplemental income, instructional materials, et cetera. Additional funding for early education Leandro programs would have been $8.2 million for that same 5-year period. So as it happens, 3 weeks ago, for the 6th year in a row, Wake County Representative Julie Von Hafen introduced a bill that calls the legislature to go ahead and do what the courts have ordered and release that funding statewide. Although the bill has several co-sponsors this year, neither our 113 district or our 117 district representative is one of those co-sponsors, and I want to know why that is. Also, I want you to know that the bill's number is for House Bill 420. In the 5 years previous that it's been introduced, it has never made it off the floor of the Rules Committee. It's never made it to a vote. So the chair of the Rules Committee is a guy named Representative John Bell. Please call him and say that we want that bill to get to a vote. We want to know where our representatives stand on releasing that funding. His telephone number is 919-715-3017. I also hope we will contact our representatives Balcom and Johnson here in 113 and 117 and ask them to support this important funding issue. Thank you.
Mr. Joe Elliott, and then stand by Joyce Marcello.
Good
Good afternoon. You may be on information overload at this point, so I want to share data-driven facts that impact discussion concerning our public schools. First, vouchers. The Republican supermajority in the General Assembly passed a veto override at the end of 2024 in the form of House Bill 10. The bill substantially expanded the state's private school voucher program by adding another, wait for it, $463 million for the current school year, thus increasing the total cost of the program by $6.5 billion between now and 2033. So what does the data say about the impact of voucher expansion? The top 24 private schools in North Carolina receive between $1.5 million and $670,000 in the current school year from the voucher fund. These schools raise tuition by an average of 6.7% between last school year and the current school year. A look at 11 private schools that do not accept vouchers had an identical year-to-year tuition increase. The same 24 schools that accept vouchers plan to increase tuition by 15.8% next year. The 11 private schools that do not accept vouchers will increase tuition by only 4.5% next year. Proponents of vouchers argue private schools are more accessible to families who do not otherwise afford it. The data strongly suggests that this is not the case. Private schools were not financially viable for the majority of North Carolina's families before vouchers. That has not changed with the expansion of the voucher program. Tuition increases mean most families will not see any real financial benefit from the voucher program. In fact, private schools are themselves the primary beneficiaries of voucher funding. So vouchers will pour billions of dollars into private school coffers, while the only discernible impact on public schools will be less funding. And remember, we already rank 48th in school funding in the country. Now, a second data point. NCAA president and former Republican governor of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, was asked in a Senate hearing in Washington, how many athletes are there in the U.S. in NCAA schools? 510,000, said Baker, at more than 1,000 colleges and universities across the country. How many transgender athletes are you aware of? He said less than 10. A major broadcast network who has admitted to being an entertainment, not a news network, has been screaming for years about the apocalypse of our sports programs due to transgender athletes.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Next, Mrs. Joyce Marsteller and Mary Hardball, if you will come up and be ready to come up after Joyce.
Oh, thank you. I think. Thank you so much for letting me be here. And I missed last month, but I prayed for you the whole time. I wasn't in the hospital. My neighbor was with a heart attack, and she is still alive, praise God. But I'm really confused about why I'm here, to be honest. Do I talk to you about things, or do I talk to you about reality? The reality is that this is the most holy week in our year. This is the first week of Passover. This is also the wonderful week where our Savior raised from the dead. And we have a double blessing. I'm Jewish, and I am a completed Jew, which means, I don't know what it really means, but what it means to me is that I have found Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. And that I know that my Savior died for every person in this room, no matter what you think, no matter how you speak, no matter how you look. He is for you. He loves you. He would die for you alone. And the ones who were here, these kids are so precious. He loves them so much that he says, forsake not the children to come unto me. He took them into himself. He's put his arms around them. He breathed his Holy Spirit upon them. And he wants us to do the same. You are in a very important place to a budget. Gee, what budget? I don't even know how to spell the word, let alone live it. But you do. You have to live in that realm. I pray for unity. I pray for you to have Jesus Christ on your shoulders speaking into your hearts, that you would not be angry with each other. You would not carry your own personal hobby horse into anything special. Think about the kids. That's who we're here for. Every one of us are here for our kids. We love them. And we've got to realize this is not a war against flesh and blood. This is a spiritual realm. And that's why he would die for he died for me. And I was really lost, let me tell you. I was so lost that he had to leave 99 to come and look for me. I was the sheep with pulled out fur, well, they don't have fur, wool, with all kinds of problems. And he saw this despicable little thing. And he picked me up. And he said, child, come on to me. That's the foundation of our school. That's the foundation of our kids. If we can let them see Jesus in us, a love for all of our people that he has created, we will have won the victory. Thank you so much. God bless you, and happy Easter. Forward.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsteller. Mary Hardville, and up next will be Carol Cannon.
And I'm happy to follow you, especially with the words of feeding our children, because that's what I would like to talk to you about. I don't have a child or a grandchild in the Henderson County Public Schools. However, I have an investment in the school system. I pay taxes, and I want that money to be used effectively. If paying a few more dollars can significantly improve student outcomes, I would consider those dollars well spent. When more students succeed, more of them will become contributing members of our community. When more succeed, more will follow a pathway to employment, enrollment, or enlistment. Fewer will leave our schools without any direction in life. Fewer will spend time in jail. When more students succeed, it is good for both the students and for Henderson County. I've attended school board meetings pretty regularly for the last 18 months. Perhaps the biggest things I've learned from listening to you on the board is that many of you believe that providing free lunch to every student would be tremendously beneficial. You believe it can make a difference. If you believe that, then I urge you to include funding for free lunches in your budget request to the county commissioners. And when you make that request, explain to them that the students, their families, their teachers, and the whole of Henderson County will benefit from this funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol Cannon, and next will be Mrs. Katie Gash.
Thank you for your work on the budget for next year. Unless you're in accounting and really like it, like Mr. Sosha and Mr. Craven, you may find it difficult and tedious work. And the challenges are amplified this year with the uncertainty of what funds we may receive from both the federal and state levels. And as I considered the challenge of preparing the budget, I started to think about my priorities for the schools. And I reflected back on my daughter Sarah's first year experience. The building she went to was old and in disrepair. In fact, her teacher's grandfather had hitched his horse to that school when he was a student. And yet I remember that school year fondly. Mrs. Thompson was a caring teacher, and Sarah learned the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. And she was put in the Bluebird reading group for the fast learners. The four Bluebirds, Amber, Bernard, Jonathan, and Sarah, were put outside in the hall. They were set free to help each other become stronger readers and to read more challenging books. And that allowed the teacher to give more time to the slower students. And even though I am glad that Sarah learned to read that year, I'm even more thankful for another lesson she learned. For you see, the 4 children in the Bluebird group came from very different backgrounds. Through that group, Sarah learned that boys can read well. So can girls. Black children can learn quickly. So can white children. Children who live in brick houses can be good students. So can children who live in trailers. Sarah learned from her 4 bluebirds not to evaluate persons based on appearances or their backgrounds. And the truth of these lessons is expressed in a song that she sang in Sunday school. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red and yellow, black, brown, white. Each is present in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Gash and Alex Ramirez, if you will come down and be ready to take up next.
Good
How are you?
afternoon. My name is Katie Gash, and I'd like to make a public comment regarding the recent racist behavior that some Hendersonville High School baseball players were made to endure just 2 weeks ago. I am concerned that no official, public, definitive statement has been made, to my knowledge, to address the incident with the urgency that it deserves. I understand that these things need to be investigated and that specific information about students is guarded, but can we at least publicly acknowledge that something terrible happened? Will there be consequences and meaningful action taken? These families deserve the acknowledgement and the assurance that hateful, ignorant, racist behavior will be firmly addressed. I'm not sure how much you have been told or what the chain of command on matters like this looks like, so I will share what I know. As of yesterday, over 280 comments were made to the post I'm going to read, some from the horrified parents who were there and witnessed it. Father Alfonso, in part, writes this: "Today, April 3rd, my nephew, a student and baseball athlete at Hendersonville High School, played against Smoky Mountain High School. His African-American teammates and him were subjected to disgusting racial slurs and statements. We teach him to love our enemies as our Lord has commanded us. Nonetheless, this sort of behavior needs to be taken seriously, and it has no place in our community." Sports reporter Chris Womack of WLOS reached out to Smoky Mountain High School the next day. I appreciate that Chris did this, and on April 11th, he shared, "I have received an update regarding the situation. Here's what the Smoky Mountain AD sent. Smoky Mountain High School and Jackson County Public Schools have completed an investigation. Per board policy, we are not permitted to comment on specifics regarding students." That was their statement. We're not asking for specifics. We're asking for a meaningful public statement from said entities, a statement that at least expresses regret that this incident occurred, acknowledgement that it was unacceptable behavior, support for the young men who endured it, and assurances that this disgusting display of racially motivated behavior has been firmly addressed. And what about the administration and the school leaders who were present yet did not immediately and decisively step in? As our school board, I know that you care for our students. You ran on the promise to look out for their safety, protection, and educational interests of our students and their families, especially at times like this when they need you most. And so I hope that you will be able to follow up. And as our district administrators, I just want to encourage you to stand up for our students when they find themselves being attacked verbally, demeaned because of their appearance, and insulted because their skin is melanated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez.
Hi there, and good afternoon. Well, my name is Alex Jose Ramirez. I am a teacher at Upward Elementary, and I'm also part of Public School Strong. And I'm here today to ask you to include in your upcoming budget request to county commissioners to fully fund free school lunches in all Henderson County public schools. As a teacher in Henderson County, I believe that free school lunches not only help our students be stress and worry-free about getting access to a hot meal, but parents are also relieved of these financial stresses. They can use that money that they save for school events, for fundraisers, or other needs that they just need to pay for. Also, free school lunches can also promote family and school involvement and increase school and parent relationships. As a teacher in the past, I have had to send home notices that their student has an overdue lunch fee. This can sometimes cause discomfort and misunderstanding for parents who want to be involved in their students' education. And then finally, these free school lunches can also help our students not to feel excluded or others in their school. When I was a kid at Dana Elementary and Hendersonville Middle, I ordered my food like the morning of, go out to the cafeteria, picked out the milk I wanted, and when I typed in my lunch number, I had my food taken away because I couldn't afford it, and I was given a brown bag lunch. A student should never have their food taken away from them. So I'm asking you, please include in your budget request to fully fund free school lunches across all Henderson County public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Next, Sheriff Silvius, and then I will ask Gordy Jinks if he will come down and be waiting in the wings. Ms. Silvius?
Hello, thank you. I am Sheriff Silvius. I just want to say it's always great to come here and see all the students and the recognition of everyone and the hard work of the teachers. It's always amazing to see that. I wanted to bring up the Parents' Bill of Rights and then a new bill that's trying to be passed, the SB 636, which is promoting wholesome content in our books in our school system. I've spoke before about books that are in our media centers that have pornographic language in them. And I have been working with Mr. Garrett and Shannon Marlowe, and I've been grateful for that, but there's also a vetting process that we're supposed to go through. And I feel like a lot of parents are unaware of what's in our media centers. And I want to do this to make people aware. Pornographic material is harmful to children. It promotes sexual behavior that children shouldn't be doing. Sorry, let me put my glasses on. It actually changes their neural pathways. It causes addiction. It harms their view of other people. It harms their quality of life. Like I said, it's addictive, so often they want to continue reading that type of material or then watching that type of material. A lot of times it can also branch out to children, youth, harming other youth by wanting to practice what they're reading about. This is not book banning. I'm not asking for books to be taken out of society at large. What I am asking for is that we put wholesome content in front of our children. The First Amendment was intended to protect the dissemination of ideas, but not injurious and dangerous self-expression. And obscenity is not protected under the First Amendment rights of free speech. And violations of federal obscenity laws are criminal offenses. And this was according to the United States Department of Justice. just want to change the process on how books are vetted coming into our system, and we need to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Silvas. And next, is it Jinx? Jinx, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time today, and thank you very much for your support. I've had 3 kids in the public school system here, at Hendersonville High School and at Hendersonville Elementary School. And I know, actually, it was really nice to hear about the sources of strength. I really hope you fund that, because the sophomore slump is real. I've seen that with 2 of my kids. It is scary, so I hope you guys can help them out. My youngest goes to HES currently, and I was concerned this morning when somebody messaged me and said, you know, they're going to change some things in the Title IX part of the regulations, and we're going to take out the bit where it says, in Title IX, quote, "The school system does not discriminate on the basis of sex," which is wonderful. But we're going to take out the part that says, including pregnancy, childbirth, sexual orientation, and gender identity. So the question that came up among people that I talked to about this was, who does this policy then protect? I'm an engineer, so usually we like things to be more specific rather than less. So I was just curious, what does this accomplish? So hopefully you'll speak to that later today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jinks. So that concludes our public comment. We try out committee work with policy updates, and not to hide our work, these policy committees will be open to the public, and they will have to be advertised and announced as public meetings. We just think when we split off and let at least 3 board members who really want to roll their sleeves up with our school board attorney and with Mr. Taylor and the superintendent, and really get into the weeds with the new policy updates that come in the spring. We would love for them to be able to do that and bring us back recommendations. It doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that we will not, as a board, look at those policies It doesn't mean that we won't have discussions here, but we will look to our three representatives to do the legwork and the nitty-gritty and get down in the weeds and make recommendations to us. So I want to recommend that we have established an ad hoc policy committee that will be in place until December of this year, and for the purpose of looking at policies. And ad hoc meaning that in December, we'll make some changes. Ad hoc meaning they're only going to meet probably 2 times to look at spring and fall updates. And I have had 3 volunteers, and I would like to recommend Sheila Dale, Beth Campbell, and Alyssa Norman. Name those 3 people to our policy ad hoc committee, but I also need board approval. So I'm putting that to you in the form of a motion, and I would ask for a second.
Second.
Let's have some discussion. Anybody?
I've just got a couple questions, or really one question. We have really one ad hoc committee right now, which is a joint facility committee that meets with the county commissioners to discuss capital needs. Based on an earlier vote, I guess a month or 2 prior, that committee would still stay in place.
Correct.
Okay.
My intention for the ad hoc committee is to stay in place until December, at which time, you know, you have your election of officers and, you know, maybe new board members, and then you guys can decide what you want to do again at that time.
So this committee would just allow these 3 folks to look over the policies that the North Carolina School Board Association sends down to us, whether they're amendments or new policy or policy that's removed, work with the administration team, and then bring that to the full board to discuss?
Yeah, they can make a recommendation to us based on their work that they've done, but I want us to feel free to ask questions and discuss as we need. I want it to be still very transparent, but knowing that they've done a lot of the legwork.
So if I may, it would not change the information that the full board gets at those updates. It would just, that would go out. We would set a time for the policy committee to come together, come in and really go everything line by line. So it does give the opportunity to get really detailed on each and every policy, because a lot of policies, as we know, just have little bitty adjustments, and that can be noted. Other policies require a little bit more discussion. I do not envision this, that if a federal law changes and we need to address something in May or June, that we would have a policy committee meeting, but really those updates that we know are ongoing and nothing that is urgent in order to take care of.
I would recommend that you appoint a chairman to that committee.
Okay? I don't think our policy speaks to that as far as how a chairman is appointed to that committee. You know, I would just say the 3 of you decide who you want to be your spokesperson predominantly when you come back, since our policy doesn't speak to appointing or deciding a chair among that ad hoc committee.
And is this committee only going to be focused on the updates from the North Carolina School Board Association, or is this a deep dive into every policy?
Just the ones that the School Board Associations is sending us, correct?
That would be my intention, is the changes that come up, the updates that you need to
The
look at.
updates. Any more discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I want to thank Mrs. Dale, Mrs. Campbell, and Mrs. Norman for agreeing to be on this committee and for giving this a go. We look forward and to your work, and we want to thank you in advance. Okay, that's it for old business. Now, new business. We have our audit report, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bernie Sosha. And this is an action item. So, Mr. Sosha, we're going to have a quick, brief
Okay,
Audit.
I'm gonna
We
start.
want the
I'll start.
condensed version.
I read 143 already.
I will not read this to you this evening.
Thank you.
You do have the document
Is it a
in the
clean audit?
board
Yes or no?
items. But Terry and Roger are here to actually go over it for you. So Terry needs no introduction, but you haven't met Roger yet. So this is your first foray into meeting Roger. I actually used to work with him up in Buncombe County, so.
Great.
He's down here. So I'll turn it over to these guys.
Before your presentation, do you mind if I ask a quick question? So you guys went to a new firm recently?
We were Carlin and Anderson. I'm Anderson.
Right. And now it's,
Carlin decided to retire, and Anderson wasn't ready to retire yet. So in July 2023, we merged with Gould Killian. We maintained our Hendersonville and our Brevard office that Carlin and Anderson had, and they're based in Asheville. So we went from 25 staff up to 65 staff, so it's been a learning experience, but that's where we're at.
great, thank you.
Thank you and welcome. I assume you're going to hit the highlights as legally mandated.
Roger's here to answer all your questions. So,
All I want to know is, did you find any irregularities?
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here today and for allowing our firm to conduct the audit of the board's financial records for the 2023-2024 year. I'd like to begin our review again the way that we perform the audit procedures. Then I will review the results of the governmental funds, which include your local current expense or general fund, the state public school, federal grants, capital outlay, other restricted, and individual school funds. Following that, I will highlight the results for the enterprise funds, which include your child nutrition and child care funds. And lastly, we'll summarize the results of the audit. Under the risk-based approach, auditors are required to gain an understanding of the nature of the Board of Public Education's business operations and its environment. Because of this, our audit procedures are designed to analyze the board's operations and the policies and procedures that are in use in order to determine whether these processes are operating as intended. Part of this process is conducting interviews with the finance staff of the central office, but also interviewing other staff both at the central office as well as at the individual schools in order to gain a better understanding of the internal controls and segregation duties that are in place. A key component of a risk-based audit approach is to look for fraud and the risk of fraud taking place. Part of these processes are the fraud risk questionnaires that we issue to selected staff as well as to board members. The board should be cognizant of where fraud risks are with the Board of Public Education and the steps that management takes to mitigate those risks. An auditor is not charged with the responsibility of finding fraud, but if any fraud is found, or if the auditor believes that there is a risk of fraud taking place, then the auditor is required to discuss this with the management and the board and to determine if additional audit procedures are necessary. Once the audit team has gained an understanding of the board's operations, then the next step is to test compliance with the adopted policies and procedures that are in place. Since every transaction cannot be examined, we structure our testing based on where we determine the greatest risk and on amounts that we consider to be significant to the Board of Education's financial statements. As mentioned, we also audit the individual schools. A staff member of your finance department carries out some of the audit procedures for the individual schools. We review that work. The goal is the same as with the central office, to be able to determine if the policies and procedures that are in place are operating as intended and determining that the internal controls and segregation duties are adequate and operating efficiently. We determine that the internal control and segregation duties, both at the central office and at the individual school level, have been appropriately designed and are generally operating as intended. Also, as I've reported to the board previously, we're required to conduct an audit of the board's financial and state financial assistance. We're required to rotate which programs that are audited for compliance each year. We verify that the internal controls and segregation of duties over federal and state awards are in place and operating effectively. And we test the selected programs for compliance with the requirements for each program as set forth by various governmental agencies and the Department of Public Instruction. Now I'd like to review some of your financial information, starting with Exhibit 4, that's on pages 17 and 18 of your report. And your governmental funds, which includes your local current, state public school, federal grants, individual schools, and other restricted funds, totaled revenues of $158 million for the 2023-2024 year. That's a decrease of roughly $55 million from the previous year, but the previous year included recognizing the Hendersonville High School construction project of almost $61 million. So if you back that out, you actually increased revenues by $6 million in the governmental funds for the most recent year. More than 21.3% of that revenue is in your general or local current expense fund. Almost 71% is in state public school and federal grants fund, with the remaining 8% from capital outlay, other restricted and individual school funds. And the state public school and federal grants funds reported revenue that increased by $1.9 million or 1.7% compared to the previous year. This just presents another representation of your revenues in the governmental funds for the 2024 year and the previous 2 years. As you can see, in comparing those prior year amounts, revenues in the general or local current expense fund increased from 2022 to 2023, and then again by almost $1.5 million from 2023 to 2024. In the special revenue fund, revenues reflect similar amounts from the 2022 to 2023 years, and then an increase of $3.9 million or 3.3% for the most recent year. In capital projects, you can see the spike in the 2023 year from the construction project and then returning back to a normal level for the most recent year. This slide details a breakdown of your governmental fund revenues for the 2024 year into your major sources as presented on pages 17 and 18 of the report. Revenue from the state of North Carolina makes up 60% of the total, with 22.7% coming from Henderson County, 12% from federal sources, 3.2% at the individual school level, and the remaining 2% from miscellaneous revenue sources. On the expenditure side for your governmental fund revenues, total for the year was roughly $157 million compared to $212 million the previous year. Again, excluding the completed contract and the capital outlay fund, total it would have been $152,000, so roughly a $4 million increase. Excluding the construction contract, you ended up with a 3.4% increase in expenditures for the 2024 year. And 78% of those expenditures are in instructional services, 17% in system-wide support services, 2.3% in debt service and capital outlay, and 2.4% in ancillary and non-program charges. And this just presents another presentation of those expenditures, showing the increase in the general, also in special revenue, and then capital projects dropping back down to level it was 2 years prior. This display presents an expenditure comparison. There we go. governmental fund expenditures by functional types, as I mentioned earlier. The instructional services at 78% of the total. System-wide support, 17%. Debt service and capital outlay at 2%, and the remaining 2% in ancillary and non-programmed. This presents an example from your Exhibit 5 in your report that presents your original budget, your amended budget, and then the actual expenditures for your governmental funds. As you can see, in every one of your major areas, you were below budget on your expenditures, which is, shows that management and the board are continuing to maintain good fiscal control and managing the budget for all funds. And then as far as your general fund balance, the total for as of June 30 was $6.5 million. That's a decrease of $1 million compared to the fund balance at the end of the 2023 year. And of that $6.5 million, $4.8 million is in unrestricted and unassigned fund balance, which is a decrease of $639,000 compared to the previous year. Your unrestricted and unassigned fund balance at the end of the 2024 year was equivalent of 14% of your general fund expenditures, which is a decrease from the prior year when it was 16.9%. And this just presents that general fund balance. At the top, you can see the unrestricted and unassigned, which has decreased from $6.2 million in the 2022 year down to roughly $4.8 million at the end of the 2024 year. And then the restricted and unassigned balances are presented below that, which are primarily items restricted by state statute and items that you budget for the upcoming year out of your general fund balance. But you're still at $4.8 million of unrestricted and unassigned, which is a pretty healthy number. On the enterprise funds, which consist of your school food service and your child care funds, the school food service had an unrestricted reserve of $3.3 million at the end of June 2024. That's a decrease of $734,000. And the child care fund had an unrestricted reserve of $3.2 million, which is a decrease of $128,000.
Can I stop you right
I'm sorry.
I noticed in your report that you had said that in our enterprise, the food service, that we should have a review and reconcile certain accounts with this. Could you speak to that since you're talking about that now?
You want to answer that?
So it goes back to the interface between two systems that you guys have, and the two systems don't always talk to each other the way that they should. And so at the end of the year, we always make sure that the receivables and the payables reflect actual to that. And it would be recommended for at least quarterly or monthly to look at those accounts and make sure that they're reconciled each month rather than at the end of the year. But it's really not a problem as far as income loss. It's just showing, making sure that the payables and receivables match up to what they should be.
Okay, thank you.
It's very typical of school boards in this area. We've audited other school boards, and it's pretty much the same issue everywhere.
Okay.
So as far as the audit results, we did issue an unmodified audit opinion, which means that in our firm's judgment, the financial statements presented in your report are a fair presentation of the board's financial standing as of the end of the year and for that year. There were no significant audit adjustments, so what Mr. Socia presents to you as far as financial information is pretty much what's captured in this report as well. On the single audit, on the testing of your federal and your state financial awards, there were no single audit findings and no question cost, so you were in compliance there. So overall, you're in good financial position. You have good financial management by both management and the board, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions.
So no orange jumpsuits. It's always good.
That is good information.
We appreciate you guys digging into this every year and taking care of the school system. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, do we normally get this in January? The audit?
Normally get it in January. So last year it was in March is whenever we presented it.
Okay.
And as with everything else this year with Helene and fires, and we were a little behind.
Slows things down.
We were actually here doing field work on September 26th.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of it, so it took a while to get back to it. Our plan going forward is that we would get back on a regular schedule and issue the report in October, November timeframe.
Well, as a, being someone that's in finance, it's always good to hear your auditors say good things about your CFO, because I know the work that those folks do, and I applaud them. So thank you.
That's great.
Thank you
Any
very
more
much.
questions? Okay, this is an action item, so I am open to a motion.
Can you put that up?
There's not a motion. Are we approving the audit report as presented?
You would accept the report.
Accept the report. So I'll entertain a motion
So
to
moved.
accept the report.
So moved.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Socho, lottery applications. I don't think that's plural. I guess it.
They sell lots of lottery tickets.
Yeah, it seems like it's multiple because of the dollar amount, but this is the first one that they've submitted to us this year. That's why it's such a large amount. Usually it's in the $450,000 range, but they didn't do the first quarter. So we got a double dose. We got the whole year's worth in here. But this is the lottery application. It is $967,183.14. That is, as shown in the supporting documents, that is the available amount that is in the lottery at the state level. And we are nearing the end of the agreement, but it is, the lottery money goes to Hillendale and Mills River debt service for those construction projects at those two schools. And in the 26th year is when the last payment on those bonds goes out.
So what happens per statute with those lottery funds once those two debt services are paid off?
So this money comes and it sits in Raleigh until we identify a project that we want to apply for, and we coordinate with the county commissioners, and we submit the application that's attached for an identified capital project. We just have to work together with them.
Does it have to be an already funded capital project and it's reimbursing, or is it a capital project that hasn't been started yet?
Nope, it can be, it's a brand new.
Great.
Ideally, they want it to actually be.
You have to have something
It is actually
ready.
construction. That's the nature of it, is construction. There was a little, they allowed debt service to be used, but it's intended to be for construction.
But those monies have to be used for capital for the school system.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
And it's good to know that in 2026, we will have the debt service paid off at Hillendale and Mills River Elementary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question. So we receive 100% proceeds from all the ticket sales. Is that how it works? You know I'm going to ask this every time.
No, there's a formula.
Yeah, what's the percentage that we get from, if you go buy $20 scratch off, do you know how much of that we get?
Oh, what of that dollar amount makes it to us?
Not 100.
Probably more like $3 of that, maybe.
Yeah, it's like nothing.
Your half of it's going out, that's out the door. And then
Payments, and
then they have the different projects that they keep, that they've added to over the years to whittle down the amount that goes into the capital, so it might be.
and all those commercials they put on TV. Great.
So we're using that to pay off debt services is what this is saying?
We agreed that the commissioners could use our lottery proceeds to go towards the debt service. It amounts to about half of what they pay each year in the debt service on the bonds. And they're using their regular capital money that comes to them in sales tax and property tax, but mostly the sales tax for this.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Is there?
Is there a second?
No, I don't-
Nobody made it.
Oh,
I
nobody
move that
did
the
it?
Harrison
Okay.
County Board of Public Education approve the North Carolina Education Lottery application as presented.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Sosha,
Hi.
back again.
We have one purchase or contract to bring to you this evening, over $90,000. And it is, the ink might still be dry, still be wet on this. We just opened up our bids and had to go through this at the very end of last week to decide how we were going to present this to you today. But as you recall, we were talking about the hurricane, and East Henderson visitor bleachers sustained some significant damage. Gone through a lot of people going out there and looking at those, and structural engineers said, can't repair them, got to replace them. So our original estimates came in, it was going to be a formal construction project to get that done. We put that out to bid. Bids came back in, and that's what we have for you this evening. We got 3 responses that came back in, thank goodness. And the low bid for this is J. Bartholomew Construction at $450,000 to come in and replace those bleachers. Now, the funding of this project is going to be sort of a hodgepodge. We've submitted this for insurance, certainly, and based on the evaluation, insurance is going to cover half of the project. But of course, it was wind damage, so we have a $100,000 deductible, so it'll be half minus $100,000. We have submitted a request into FEMA, which we will not find out until after everything else settles, how much we get from them. But in the meantime, we have a little stopgap. The state put out capital money for Helene damage, and just found out this afternoon, we have $500,000 that will be sent our way towards this project, and all we have to do is reimburse the state for whatever FEMA or insurance money that we get. So we'll have the money in hand to get this done.
That is good news. Is there a motion?
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve that staff proceeds with contracting with J. Bartholomew Construction as presented.
Discussion? That is awesome to hear about the funding source.
Good work.
All those, go ahead.
When will they be able to start? When will they be able to replace those?
So the longest part of this is going to be getting the bleachers delivered to us, which should be coming in, they say it's going to come in the beginning and middle of August. It's going to be really tight as to getting it right. You know, we wanted it at the beginning of the season. It might be a couple weeks in.
Are they going to be aluminum or wood bleachers?
They're aluminum and ADA compliant. That's going to be part of the project as well, getting access to the bleachers as well, and making sure that they have access to restrooms. A whole lot of new things have to happen over there to, it's been a while since they've been installed. So I think code has changed.
Have the old ones been torn down yet?
No, they are still there. I do believe, though, that, have you heard that the trees were supposed to, they have not come down yet, but all the trees that are in the back there are set to come down. They were going to start at the end of last week. I guess they haven't done it yet, but they will very shortly. If it goes down, then the bleachers will come out.
So
And for the public's knowledge, for the purpose of those trees, is that's what caused a lot of the damage, is those trees blowing, and then they were compromised and weakened. So we've had additional trees fall since the hurricane, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that and get those out of the way so that anything new you put back is not going to get destroyed.
The inspector that came out to look at them said he has been through all kinds of hurricane damage, and they had some like railroad tie, like the beams, the steel beams that were in there, when the trees hit, actually twisted the beams. And he said he's been to all sorts of hurricanes and Katrina and all these places. He's like, he's never seen that. So they need to be replaced.
So is that,
There was no repair.
is that section just going to be closed off for Special Olympics?
It is, it's been closed off since we had the hurricane.
Okay.
They're roped off.
Not been out there.
But part of why the staff has worked really hard to get this to you now is so that we can
Yeah.
expedite the timeline as much as we can. And the big thing is getting, again, those bleachers ordered so they can be manufactured and sent.
Nice.
Get that ball rolling first thing in the morning.
Okay, first and second, I call For a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Action carries.
Thank you, Mr. Sosha.
And then we have policy updates. Mr. Taylor. Long day.
6 hours.
Wouldn't be a good meeting.
And counting.
I'm fired up.
Yeah, good evening, board members. I hope you have had an enjoyable day with us. So tonight I do bring to you 6 policy updates, and these updates stem from changes that have occurred at the federal level. The first 4 are all very similar changes in taking out a parenthetical definition, and in some of the cases, it's also aligning it with a current policy where we've already removed the parenthetical definition at an earlier board meeting. And then the final 2 are changes in purchasing. And so I'll begin with the first one, policy 1720. And so this policy is from Title IX, non-discrimination on the basis of sex. And so this policy update removes the parenthetical statement in the first paragraph defining sex to include pregnancy, childbirth, sexual orientation, and gender identity. And again, this is the parenthetical definition that was removed from a separate policy, I believe about a year ago. So this will make this more in line with what we have in that policy.
So is this policy update a result from recent federal action, but we made the change a year ago?
In a separate, so I had brought to you a child nutrition policy update about a year ago. And in that, the discussion from the board was about, is that definition needed? And
That was per my request. This was like a year or more ago that we just happened to be one of the ones we were reviewing. And I personally made the request that we remove all of the verbiage behind the word sex in the parentheses and just take it out.
And we
so
did, right?
We did, yeah, we voted on that. But that was before, like, the federal
So,
definition or law.
Mr.
Yeah.
Henning
I could
can
weigh in on that
can update you
some.
on the, what you have to do
Yes, sir. So
versus what we're requesting.
this brings your policy into line with the current regulations on Title IX, the federal law, and this has been a step-by-step. If you did some of this a year ago, you did a little bit of legwork that every other model policy from School Boards Association that touches on Title IX has since done, because it is what the current regulation says about Title IX. It limits it back to discrimination on the basis of sex and doesn't get into any further definitional work about what that means. I do want to point out, and this responds somewhat to the public comment that was made about, it should not be read as an invitation to discrimination, because you're not going to put up with bullying, harassment, discrimination against any of your students. And to that point, I want to bring to your attention, there's state law GS 115C-407.15 that says no student or staff member of a public school system will be bullied or harassed, and that bullying and harassment is defined in that statute as motivated or by an actual or perceived differentiating characteristic such as race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, gender, socioeconomic status, academic status, gender identity, physical appearance, sexual orientation, or mental, physical, developmental, or sensory disability, or by association with a person who has one of those things. And that remains in your policies. It remains state law. So it should not be thought of as an open invitation to have anybody harassed or bullied on one of those bases. You're still going to make sure that all of your students are able to go to school harassment-free and able to come and learn.
And to further follow up a little bit on that, the thought process about removing the parenthetical is to align these policies with the previous ones that you've passed. And as the wind changes at the federal level, whatever the definition of sex is, if you have it in your policy, you will have to adjust. If you just do it on the basis of sex, then we fall under whatever the federal definition is and the state statutes as well. So what this is a way for us to not have to bring these things to and fro quite as many times because you've got in the parenthetical what the current definition is. As we know, the definition could change tomorrow, in 2 years, or whatever. So it doesn't change the substance, it doesn't change our actions, it doesn't change how we approach what our day-to-day duties are as a school district and as educators. But what it does do is it allows us to have our policies very consistent that deal with sex and the federal definition of that.
And one other point that was raised was about pregnant and parenting students. That's covered by a different law. You have different policies that also attend to that need. So it's all, nothing that you're changing today changes how you approach making sure everybody's treated equally by your school system.
Nor does it change the meaning of any of these policies.
Correct.
Mr. Taylor, do you want us to vote on each one separately, or what is your pleasure here?
Whatever serves this board the best.
I'm okay with waiting unless somebody wants to pull one out.
I'm okay with waiting.
Okay.
Okay.
Continue on. Any more questions?
I do have a question. Do we know if this parenthetical language verbiage is in any of our other policies, or are we going to have to, I guess, just see it as it comes?
In the search from our attorneys and from our side as well, these are the last four that had that parenthetical definition. Good question. All right, so the next one, policy 5240, advertising in the schools. Same thing here. This policy update removes the parenthetical statement in section B defining sex to include pregnancy, childbirth, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Any questions on this policy?
That's the only change there?
That's the only change there. The next one, policy 7100, recruitment and selection of personnel. This one removes two parenthetical statements, the first one being the same one about defining sex, and that falls in section A. And then also in section A, it removes the parenthetical statement that defines age to be 40 or older. Any questions on this one?
Does that mean you're really old if you're over 40? Should we
Because you
take
can't
offense
be
to that?
discriminated against if you're
Yeah.
under 40 based on your age.
Any more questions? All right, move forward.
All right. And then the last one in this realm is policy 7232, discrimination, harassment in the workplace. Again, this policy update removes both of those parenthetical statements. For the first one about defining sex, that is found in the first paragraph in section B and section C. And then the one regarding age is also in the first paragraph and in section B. Any questions on that one? Okay. So those are the four that all have the similar updates on that end. The next two are about purchasing changes. So policy 8305, federal grant administration. For this policy update, it adds a paragraph in section A3 authorizing the finance officer to conduct the self-certification process for the school system and to provide to federal agencies documentation raising the micro purchasing threshold to $50,000.
Why isn't this brought in our spring updates and now? It seems incongruent with the previous four, the next two.
So I can speak to that. That's our fault. But it's to make sure, Campbell Shatley, ever since we have been assisting our Helene-affected districts, have been taking a close look and a kind of a crash course in federal compliance for grant funding, because that includes any FEMA grant money that you get back. And so the School Board Association, I think, is also getting things up to speed, but it's the hard look we've been taking has led us to the guidance we provided for both this and the next policy. So that's the purpose behind it. And I can go into a lot more detail, but please don't make me. It's more than I ever wanted to know about the uniform guidance compliance, but that's the purpose of it, is to make sure as you're doing things like processing that FEMA grant that's down the road for the bleacher replacement, that you have got everything completely up to snuff.
Right.
Now, one potential benefit to this, though, is I know that we've talked about the farm to school program. This raises that micro purchasing limit to where we would have the ability then to do some more things potentially locally with local producers, because that goes from 10 to 50.
Wow.
More questions? All right,
Right, and then the next one, policy 9110, use and selection of architects, engineers, surveyors, and construction managers at risk. So for this policy update, it adds a statement in subsection B2 stating that the superintendent shall proceed pursuant to this subsection after certifying in writing that the project is exempt from the formal procedures in this policy. Any questions on this one?
Is that very different from what we do already?
So that's another thing that was occasioned by a review of all related policies to federal grant funding and making sure we process it correctly. It's actually a feature of state law that says whenever you have the need of architectural, engineering type services for a project, you announce the need. That's an RFQ process. You're able to exempt a project on a per project basis if it's less than $50,000 fee. I talking through this with Chris Campbell and around the table at our firm, we don't think anybody has been in the best practice of actually exempting them on a per project basis. So actually thinking through each one of them and having some documentation that says we didn't do an RFQ process here because it was less than 50,000. The 50,000 also marries with the new micro purchasing threshold so that your superintendent, after you pass this, is able to say, even if this is federally funded, we don't need to go through some protracted process to find that architect or engineer to design it. And it documents that he, examined it and said, this one is exempt. So it also doesn't have to come back to the board every time you do that.
More questions? Okay,
Madam Chairman,
yes.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Education approve the following policies: 1720, 4030, 7235, policy 5240, policy 7100, policy 7232, policy 8305, and policy 9110.
Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay, likewise? Okay, all your policies do carry, our policies, excuse me.
No, they're his.
They are his. I let the policies be his.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just takes care of them. They're your policies.
He's the good babysitter.
Mr. Taylor, you're going to talk to us about an out-of-country school trip with North Henderson JROTC.
Yes, ma'am. So policy 3320 regarding school trips requires that any travel outside of the continental U.S. Must receive prior approval from this board. And so tonight I bring to you a request for an out-of-country school trip by the North Henderson High School Air Force JROTC. They're looking to take a student trip to Europe during the March 2026 spring break. This all-inclusive guided tour organized by EF Educational Tours will take students to the United Kingdom, France, Luxembourg, and Germany, and will provide an in-depth exploration of World War II. Students will examine the conflict from both Allied and Axis perspectives on the Western Front, enhancing their understanding of its historical significance. This trip aligns with JROTC curriculum, which covers international relations, military history, leadership, tactics, and technology. So attached to the cover memo is information that comes from EF Educational Tours. This is a sample of what their trip really could take on over the course of the 11 days. They have not finalized their trip beyond just knowing the countries that they want to visit, but they will finalize it once they receive final approval that they can do such. So any questions?
Do they need us to go with them?
I know. I was going to say, I can approve it if I can go.
From a chaperone standpoint,
Wondering.
I know that they have exceeded our expectations. We, from a district standpoint, we expect that you have
they're over the
chaperones
ratio.
of 1 to 12. I think
Or
they're about
adults.
1 to 6. So I think they're covered, but at the same time, you are more than welcome to volunteer and
I think we
see.
need to make sure it goes.
I think there could be an opportunity for a you buy one, the kid travels free opportunity.
Hey.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody might be up for that. I'm sure
Each
that.
student needs a partner.
Yeah.
Are the kids raising the money to go on this, or how is it funded?
I'm sure it's both. I'm sure that there will be fundraising that takes place to help offset the cost, but then some of it, I'm sure, will inevitably also fall on the students.
And that's why they're asking now, so that they've got,
Yeah, so that, yeah.
they've got
How
far
many
enough out.
students are looking at going? Do you know?
Let me grab my pen.
Doesn't have to be exact. I'm just curious. I think it's so cool.
Madam Chair, I'm going to use this opportunity to excuse myself. I got to head to another meeting. I've enjoyed being at this one. Thank you. I hope you all get home eventually. You've
Make
earned
sure
it.
you clock out and charge them
Yeah,
for the rest of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
The travel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My other question
Thank you,
with
Ms.
this
Cheney.
is, have we had any other JROTC schools in Henderson County do this before?
I think we've had any since I've been here.
No.
But no, I've been in this position 4.5 years.
Okay.
This is the first time I've had to present, or I've had the opportunity to present a request to take a trip outside of the continental U.S.
Hopefully, it's the first of many. This is incredible.
Yeah, so they're looking at, based on the information they sent me, looking at around 20 students going on this trip.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the North Henderson JROTC out-of-country trip to Europe.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job, Carl.
All right, and now we're the individual side, class size waiver. Mr. Rhodes?
Mr. Rhodes, you're here today.
I'm here today. We got to do this for 3 hours prior to meeting with you. I bring to you this evening a class size waiver form for Bruce Drysdale Elementary. Due to the ongoing impacts of Hurricane Helene, we've had a lot of schools experience an increased student mobility across many of our schools, Bruce Drysdale being one of those schools. What's happened is we've got in first grade and also in third grade, we have class size overages from the state. Those averages, you can have up to 19 students in first grade per class. We have 2 classes there with a total of 39 students. That means we're over 1. In third grade, we can have up to 20, and we have 42, so we're over 2 students. The last thing we want to do is try to, number one, try to hire someone extra in there, split up kids just to meet this class size legislation. So we're going to request this waiver in an effort to make sure that we minimize any disruptions to the students and also to the school. And it also comes at a financial expenditure to the district if we were to add 2 positions at this point in time of the year. So we're bringing this to you, for you just for approval so that the superintendent can sign this and send this waiver into the state tomorrow.
Just to clarify, this is just for the remainder of this year.
Correct. Yeah.
How long have we been over, Mr. Rhodes, in those classes?
Not very long. Yeah, when we started on day 40, we were under. But we have to run this report so often. Yeah, and so we have to
Probably
fill this out.
But it's also one of the things that you have to be careful of a school like Bruce Drysdale specifically, because we have the dual language program, which has a very prescribed number and doesn't have to meet the class size requirements per this law.
Correct.
And then you have the other half of the school where first grade, I think it has to be 19 kids.
Can't go over 19 per
19.
class.
And it's kindergarten's, 20? It goes down to 19.
21 in kindergarten, 19, 20, and 20.
Yeah, which makes absolutely
No sense.
no sense whatsoever. But my point is specifically a school like this, you have to be careful with letting folks come into the school outside of the district, outside of the district for that district school.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you bring up, Ms. Craven. And all the students who are there in those classrooms are not on reassignment, because again, the dual language, those were typically the students who are on reassignment or going into the dual language. And to your point, we're not held to the same standard in the dual language classrooms. We can go over those class size mandates, but in the what I would call the regular Bruce Drysdale, the typical student who is district to that school, that's where we're held to the 21, 19, 20, and 20.
Well, what do we see coming into next school year? Is this going to be an issue again?
Should be.
No, and that's what I was going to add is Mr. Rhodes keeps a really tight eye on this all throughout the year. And when we sit and do allotments, he's keeping an eye on these numbers, not only of what's there, but what's coming as well. So this is a very rare thing that hits your level simply because we've been able to manage the numbers. And 2 things coming to you now is it's such a small number over, and you're sitting here in April. So we don't want
And
to
third will
disrupt
roll up into fourth, so we can put 900 kids in a classroom if we want, you know.
Not 900, but
Well, I mean, for the General Assembly, we can. They
there's not a
really
limit.
don't care.
Yeah.
They only
This is
care
the
up to
first time
third.
we've actually brought a waiver to the state during my time in HR.
Well, I hear that I think the House just pushed a bill through to get rid
saw
of the
that.
class size law.
Yeah.
So there is a bill on the House side that would go back to suggestions, recommendations, not,
Not advocating for that. I just
No.
think
Right.
the arbitrary numbers of 21, 19, 20, 20 makes no sense.
I think in this instance, it would be way more disruptive to move kids around.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think
Yeah, that's
there's no question.
So I have a question, since we're talking about Bruce Drysdale. I've had a couple of people ask me about their funding and their teacher allotment there. Those dual language teachers, is that extra teachers that we get a lot for Bruce Drysdale to do those classes? Or are those teachers specifically classroom teachers that were allotted, and they're just bilingual that teach those classes Spanish?
So that is, the issue that you're talking about is that Bruce Drysdale, we basically have two schools within one. So you have the traditional Bruce Drysdale K through 5 student experience where we have 2 teachers in each one of those grade levels.
Right?
When the board decided some number of years ago to implement the dual language program, we put a cap on the number of students that we would be able to allow to go into the dual language. And so there was 2 teachers allotted for each grade level. Now, there have been times where we didn't need 2 teachers in like 4th grade or 5th grade because the number of students who may have started out in the dual language program in kindergarten, as those numbers went up, if there were only 30 students in like 5th grade, we didn't have a class size of 15 and 15. We reduced that number. Right now, there are 2 teachers in K-5 in both the traditional and also the dual language.
But are those extra funded positions, like have we put in extra teachers there to do that? Or is that part of the regular, like if we didn't have the dual language and we had 4 classes in kindergarten, they would all be 4 regular ed classes, correct? Like we don't put any extra funding towards that school to pay for
No,
those
because
positions?
those still come to us from the state based off of the number of
Okay.
students that we have in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Okay,
So if those students were to go back to whatever said school they were at, then that base teacher allotment, those would begin to go up in each one of those other schools.
okay,
So it's not like we're adding extra teachers that are taken away from other schools.
okay. That's what I understood, but there's some confusion among parents at other schools that we're putting extra funds into Bruce Drysdale that we're not doing. And I just want to make that clear.
no, ma'am, the base teacher allotment follows student population.
Correct.
So all of our elementary schools have the same formula for our teacher allocations.
They do. And what is really, since my time in human resources, this whole allotment process has evolved into something that has been is really very positive. Our principals come in, they can predict as they understand how we roll those numbers up. And the K-3 class size, they are what they are, and then we have allotment ratios also for grades 4 through 8. And so that's how we divvy out our base teacher allotments.
We're divvying out state and local.
So all those are combined, so that we take all of our, what we call a base teacher allotment, is all the ones we get from the state, also added in with the ones that we use locally
Okay.
to get our base number of teachers.
And then if a school qualifies for Title I federal funds,
Mm-hmm.
they develop their own plan, their teachers and parent representatives develop their own plan as to how those funds will be used.
And oftentimes, they will use those for class size reductions.
Okay.
And I have a report over there, it's on my computer, not that you're asking for it, but it does give our class size ratios. And they're actually excellent. And that doesn't even take into account the number of, where we have a school that decides to use Title I funds to reduce their class sizes. That doesn't even take that into account. But our class size ratios are very good here in Henderson County.
So is the board approving this and then you present it to the state, or the state has given you this to give to us?
What the state has asked us to do, that we have to present this to you for approval. And then all we have to do is let the superintendent sign this. The information has already been filled out here, and we'll send it up to the state.
Okay, how long after that will this be able to take an effect so that they can finish out the year?
Well, nothing will change at Bruce Drysdale at this point in time. So just, and I'm not sure exactly what the time frame is for the state.
Just
once
being
they
in
get that to
compliance
approve.
with everything.
Correct. Yeah, this is for us to.
Almost over by the
They
time
will,
it gets-
typically they'll review it. We'll hear something back in a couple of weeks, and I've never seen one that was denied, especially one this tight.
Yeah.
So
You got to be really way off, and we're not.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the class size waiver request for Bruce Drysdale Elementary as presented.
I second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion carries. And then Dr. Marlowe.
So you may be thinking, you thought you'd already done this, and you sort of have, but the goal line got moved on us, so Dr. Marlowe's up with an update and a request.
So in February, we had you approve our summer, basically our summer testing plan for our summer programming. And then about 2 weeks ago, the state came out with what they're calling the School Year Readministration Program. Well, what that does is offers us the opportunity to allow students to take their EOG or their end of course test, do remediation immediately following the test, and re-administer their second opportunity to take the test if they don't do well the first time before the school year is out. Now, that's not a great plan for all kids, but for some kids, it is a good plan. So what we are asking tonight is for your approval for the plan that you have in front of you to include this in addition to what you've already approved. So not only would students be able to take their second administration, they still only get 2 chances, but their second administration either before the school year is out or during the summer, whatever best fits their needs. So it basically allows some flexibility based on student needs.
So the teacher gets to look at that and recommend, I think we need to ride this out and they need to take this over the summer, or she just needed, couldn't deal, just needed to take it again, she'll be fine. Now where will they do that? Just during a regular school day with a teacher?
So the school need to provide remediation for them, whether it's a child who, they may have been sick on the day of testing and just thought, I'll come in and get it over with, and didn't do as well as they'd hoped, or maybe it's just that kid who just needs that little boost. They will be provided with remediation during the school day, and then ideally, it would be someone that they know that would be able to pull them into a small setting, because I'm sure that they wouldn't be the only student who may need that opportunity.
So anybody can retest. It doesn't have, they don't have to score within one standard error of measurement or any of that stuff.
Yeah, it can only be for students that do not score proficient.
Okay.
You can't just
Yes,
take it
yes,
to,
yes.
yes. Yes.
And does that change our testing window at all?
No, not, it's still within that testing window, and this approval allows us to expand it to fit the needs of second
We have done this
administration.
before.
Yes, I was going to say,
Yes.
for those of you who've been around, this is
Yes.
kind of a hybrid model. This is what we used to do, and then they made you not do it, and now we can do it again, sort of with both.
Yes.
But it is really nice, because there are some kids who are right on that precipice, who may have gotten off a line, who may have done some things, you're like, this kid just needs a retest option, although we can't call it a retest option, but that's what it was.
Second administration.
Second administration, while others need a little bit more extensive, and this gives us a chance to do both.
It
We
really
have
just,
to redo this every year, or
we don't know yet since it
just based off
happened
of?
2 weeks ago. So
But you will approve a summer testing plan every year.
every year. But
Okay.
this, if they continue with this, then this would just be rolled into what we typically bring to
What we
you.
already do.
Yes.
I'll take a motion.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Instruction approve the 2024-2025 school year readministration program plan.
Any more questions for Dr. Marlowe? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
you. Thank you, Mr. Craven.
Thank you. Now that the highlight's done.
All right, we are down to superintendent reports. And Mr. Taylor, I guess you're up again.
I know that several of you have
I know.
commitments you're trying to get to. That's the action items. I don't know if this would be a good segue for all of you, but those are the action items. There will not be any action requested the remainder of the meeting.
Quitters. No, I'm just kidding. 6.5 hours.
And
was
that's
enough.
Three
still,
of the 7 of us have to go to ball games.
and that still leaves a quorum, so you're in good shape.
We got it.
You can stream it on your phone as you're driving.
Yeah, if you miss this, just pull us up on your way.
Text us if you have any questions.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right, so for this evening's capital update, we'll start with projects that are coming out of the capital outlay fund that is here. So these are district projects, and so all these were approved during our budget process last year for this year's capital outlay. And so the first one being a fire panel replacement at Hendersonville Middle School, and so that project is complete. At Flat Rock, we're doing some HVAC upgrade work on the F Hall, and so that is in the engineering phase where an engineer has been out there to look at it and is starting to design that HVAC system for us. Generator at Mills River Academy, that is also in the engineering phase where we're figuring out what is the load need for that generator to make sure that we get the right size, but also that we don't overspend in getting a generator that's larger than is needed. Also, classroom flooring replacement that is being scheduled at various school sites, and so that is under contract and will take place as soon as the school year wraps up there. So the work hopefully will start that first or second week in June. And then, as was already discussed this evening, the stadium bleacher replacement project at East Henderson High School there for the visitor side. The pre-bid meeting took place Monday, March 31st. Bid opening was last Thursday, and then tonight, as you all know, you were presented with the contract for that, or presented with us seeking approval for the contract for that work. Here's just a couple of pictures of what East Henderson looked like there on that side of the stadium in the days after Hurricane Helene. So you can see one tree there that caught the one side there of the bleachers, and just the number of trees that came out of that wooded area back behind that side of the stadium. So a lot of work was done there by our maintenance to get that cleaned up.
Is that a pop-up, like, camper down in the corner? I was looking at that
I'm trying
earlier.
to remember what that.
It's a high jump pit.
Oh, yes, that's.
Oh, I was like,
Mat.
do we have people camping out there?
No, it's a
Gotcha.
it's a mat. Not that you have little kids that play on it all the time, but not camping out.
Then as we, go ahead. Yes, sir. Just based on. Well,
Fond memories, huh?
yeah.
Is there a parking lot kind of behind that?
So behind this end that's where we're at right now in this picture is where the ag program uses for animals and.
It's the goat ranch.
Yeah.
I knew there was something.
And then the bus lot is not too far away.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. But again, as Mr. Garrett mentioned earlier tonight, we've had several trees fall since then. And so just the concern that once we have new bleachers that we could be right back where we're at today. We want to avoid that, and also just the safety concern that comes with it to go ahead and remove all of them.
And there wasn't any damage to the lighting, so none of that has to be messed with?
Fortunately on that, we're fortunate on that end. There were a couple of buildings on this end that, or at least one that where it fell on, and then the field house down at the other end that was also damaged. But the bleachers are the main thing. Then with our MRTS projects, as you all know, we had the ribbon cutting a week and a half ago for West Henderson, and that secure work that was finished. So just a couple of pictures from the ribbon cutting out front of that new entrance, now that it is completely finished. As we move into that area, here's a picture of that lobby area, the front desk, and then coming out of that space, the enclosed courtyard that feeds up to the cafeteria and the gymnasium space.
When are we gonna open it up? We still have a few more things.
Last week, whenever I was there, just a few punch list items were taking place, and then we'll just make sure from a technology standpoint and a security standpoint with our cameras that we're ready to go.
If you go back one, they are using that gate and using that to enter the gym now. I went to their drawdown on Saturday night, so they are bringing people in that front main entrance or bringing them up the sidewalk and going through, so you don't have to cut through the building anymore like we were. So they are already utilizing that on the outdoor space.
I haven't heard, especially, once we get it fully open, then that's when we'll kind of get their feedback. But I'm sure they're just happy that construction isn't taking place on their campus at this moment.
That's over.
Well, I can say from my student's point of view, because she has been allowed to use that hallway to go from the gym over to where the EC class is, because she escorts one of the kids, and being able to use those ramps and have that area to get to has been a huge help for them, and they have greatly appreciated it.
So the area that Ms. Campbell is speaking of is this area back here behind the gymnasium, the X Hall and Y Hall. So these are the doors that would come in to that space from the outside in that back area. The other picture is coming from Y Hall looking back towards those doors. And so that's the connector of Y to the gymnasium to X. This next picture shows that ramp that is entering X. And so, yes, I'm quite certain that has been a welcomed change for those students in that class. And then also in that space are the 4 single-user restrooms as well. Any questions?
Very nice job.
Thank you. Mr. Sosha.
I feel like this sort of completes everything since we spent the morning talking about next year, heard the audit from last year, and now we'll talk about this year. So I have
That would be the
for you-
ghost of Christmas, past, present, and future.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, yep. What do I have? Local current expense and other restricted funds through March 31st, so through 3 quarters of the year. Revenues are at $34,251,000 and expenditures at $27,717,000. I just put a note on there because the budget got a little bit wonky with all the Helene stuff in there, so we're at 68% of our non-Helene budget for the year right now. Which is on track for where we are supposed to be, because we need to save about 9% to pay the local supplement in June, so we got to be a little bit behind where we are at 75% of the year. And the other report I have is for the capital outlay fund through the 3rd quarter. At March 31, revenues are $1,772,000 and expenditures at $1,425,000. Since last report, basically the biggest thing that we've done, put on here is remember we saw the new bleachers at West and East got a set as well. That's $305,000 that came out in the 3rd quarter. That was the biggest project that was done in that quarter. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to help. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Superintendent.
Have Mr. Moore do this, and he was unable to be here. So I really wanted to let him highlight and celebrate because he had a huge part in making this possible. This is the Healthcare Fellows Program that we have done a press release, and Kimberly did a beautiful job working with the other public information officers from all 4 of those partners up there. And this is truly a partnership with Henderson County Public Schools, Advent Health, UNC Health Part E, and then we brought Blue Ridge Community College along toward the end of it to wrap it all up. And we're really excited about this, not just for what it does for healthcare potential in this community, but what it could do for economic development and jobs and getting our students connected in with post-secondary opportunities. So this is really the first scaffold or model that we want to scaffold, that if another company or an industry was interested in doing a partnership, that we could do that. I also want to thank Peggy Marshall and the Ed Foundation for helping on the financial side too. They are housing the funds so that we can access them for these students. So here's the concept. It was really a collaborative effort. We sat around and I've been wanting to try to figure out how do we get more kids engaged in careers and how do we get more kids the opportunity to take advantage of post-secondary options. Two of our great partners and have been from day one are UNC Health Party and Advent. So we brought them to the table, and what was really cool is they are working together on this. They talk about, obviously, they are two separate organizations, but they don't look at themselves as rivals when we talk about public education and developing our kids. So really what the concept came out of my head is what if we could do a teaching fellows type opportunity for local kids, and what if we could do it for nursing? Because in working with both of those hospitals, they talk to me all the time about we need this and this and this and this. And when I think about healthcare, so many of us think about nurses, doctors, and what you interface with, but there are hundreds of opportunities in different occupations in a hospital, and really they're like an ecosystem. They're their own ecosystem, whether you talk about technical support or mechanics or all the things that keep the train running on time. So start engaging with Graham at Advent and, of course, Dr. Bryant at UNC Health Party, and they were all on board about listening to the concept. So who's eligible? Any senior. So any senior who has an interest in healthcare. So they do not have to be in our allied health programs, but we do really are targeting them, especially this first year, because it is a pretty short turnaround in order to get this first cohort. So both of those hospitals have agreed to sponsor 5 students per year. And the intent is for that student to be able to go through whatever Blue Ridge program of their choice, debt-free. Now, it's intended to be a kind of last mile funding, meaning they would do the FAFSA and they would do all of that. But anything that was left after that, if they are selected to one of these healthcare fellows positions, one of the 10 slots, 5 with Advent, 5 with UNC Health Part E, then they would be able to finish that program, receive that certification at no cost to the student. That includes uniforms if they need them. That includes the exam test and things that they have to take, books, any materials. So it's really an outstanding opportunity for a student to get a degree and to have a certification that they can then take and use as a vocation after 2 years, 3 years, whatever that program runs them. Now, the great thing about Advent Health and UNC Health Part D is they do not just see this as a financial commitment. They want to have skin in the game, so to speak, and they want to mentor these kids. So it will be an opportunity for them to have the chance to be mentored by healthcare professionals in the profession currently. And really, I think they look at it as their way to take somebody that thinks they may want to be a nurse, but then really loves the radiology, and they could help mentor them in that way, or they may want to go on. So there is the potential that these students could then get beyond Blue Ridge Community College courses and have that paid for by those hospitals as well. Now, the one caveat to this that's different than the Teaching Fellows program is there is no payback for the student. So if the student finishes a nursing degree and moves to Montana, they don't have to pay it back. In the Teaching Fellows, they would have to do that. So it's not a year-for-year commitment. And both hospitals were very, very adamant about they don't expect there to be a contract. What they want to do is, as they're mentoring and selling their organizations, that they feel like they're going to be able to keep those kids and keep them in that return on investment, that they'll stay here. So the great part about that as a community is that we have those healthcare professionals who were raised here, graduated from Henderson County Public Schools, connect in with our local community college, may go beyond that, but will stay in this region to help take care of us. And as I like to tell people, one day I want people to take care of me, and I want really good people to take care of me. So it would be, right now, the commitment is 5 students per year per sponsor, so 10 total students per year.
So the seniors from across all the high schools would apply?
Yes.
And then they would choose them, or?
Yeah, there will be a selection process, a rubric and a selection process. So if we get 10 If we get 10 candidates who qualify for the programs at Blue Ridge, then all 10 of them will get it. I have a feeling we'll get more than 10. And that is what Mr. Moore is working on right now, is we actually have a letter, and that letter invites some students to apply. So we're really targeting our students right now who are graduating, who have taken courses in our allied health programs. So because obviously they already have, especially if they're a pathway completer, they already have an idea of what career they want to get into. So in order to turn that around, because by May 1, everybody needs their choice to be made about where they're going. If they're thinking about going to, for example, my daughter is at East Tennessee State University. She's thinking about healthcare. She had to let them know. Well, we want to make sure that these students who are thinking that's where they're going can have the opportunity to make that decision of using this program or not.
So if we have, is it going to be 5 more per hospital per year? So next
Yes.
year, they're going to do 10, then 15. So, I mean, they really can be signing on to somebody's a doctor. We're in for it for the long haul.
And I think they were okay with that because they'll have that
That's
relationship and they'll
So
know.
fantastic.
So it will be, yes, ma'am, and I'm glad you made asked that question, Ms. Holt, is the intent is 10 per year. And if there's a greater need or a greater opportunity, that may be able to be revisited. I don't know. If there's other partners who want to come on board, they could do that and it could be entertained. So that's the reason that we've tried to structure it in such a way that it is mobile, it is scalable, and it is also adaptable to other industries as well.
Do we have since they're funding it, is there a breakdown of what that costs per student? Just for,
I would have no idea, but what they have done is they are looking at if a kid got nothing, like if a kid qualifies for nothing, how much would it cost? And they're committing to that much. And then if they don't cost that much, then that money would carry over to the next year.
so when you say got nothing, you mean scholarship wise?
Period, yes. Like if they were a
Okay.
full pay student.
Okay.
Don't qualify for.
Yeah, if they don't qualify for any financial aid, if they didn't get any scholarships, if they were going to be all out of pocket somehow, then they will take care of that. That's why it is by slot.
Now, is
I
this
didn't
going
know
to
that
be
that
for the
was-
end of this school year, or is this going to be starting for next year?
So no, we pushed really hard to make sure that the class of 2025 is eligible. I really wanted the class of 2024 to be eligible when we started this, but it's taken about 1.5 years to kind of get this done, and I understand.
And this is great, because we had one student who, he graduated from West, and he was supposed to go on, but he was struggling getting paperwork and family to get, and so he was not able to start, and he was in the Allied Health Program, and this would have been an opportunity for him to have been able to continue his career, whereas now he's had to take a year off and figure out what he's going to do next.
Right.
So this is amazing.
So that's why I really wanted to highlight that and highlight these 4 partners that have been part of this journey. And if at least didn't hang up the phone when we called, that was great too. So the ideal candidate right now is a student in nursing fundamentals who, these students have progressed through the health science pathway and pursue their CNA credential with HCPS. And then any other students who have stated a desire to work in healthcare will also be invited to apply. So there's 2 different ways that we would target this. The nursing fundamentals has students who have gone all the way through our allied health pathways, or sometimes, like in my daughter's case, she decided as a senior that she wanted to think about healthcare and had not taken any of the CTE courses. So I had her do an apprenticeship, or not an apprentice, an internship in the fall, and then go through the CNA class through Blue Ridge in the spring. So that's how she got there. So either way, you could come to it. So we're not restrictive in who can apply. So funds for the healthcare scholarship will be housed with the Ed Foundation. They'll apply in the spring of each year, and members of the IST and CT will administer the process and selection of the healthcare fellows. Students will be informed of their selection prior to May 1, and representatives of the hospitals will attend an award ceremony to publicly present the scholarships to the selected students. So that's their first interface with these students, and a way for them to then start talking about, this is what Advent offers versus Part E. This is what we have here versus the other. So as they start building that relationship from the naming of the healthcare fellows all the way through. Student commitment, I want you to look at what's bolded and underlined. Hospitals are not requiring mandatory work service or payback of funds for these students. Rather, they're making the investment with the belief that these students will build loyalty and trust with their sponsoring organization and want to build a career with the hospital that provided the opportunity. Future growth, we're starting with 10 total, 5 from each. Sponsoring hospital in the fellowship and hope that the opportunity will expand in the future to include more students and potentially at other institutions of higher learning. So neither hospital is against this parlaying to Western or Appalachian or even some other institutions. And that's where their investment will be key. They'll have 2 years or 3 years or 4 semesters or whatever to get to know those healthcare fellows and what their desires are, what their specialty is going to be, and they can then connect and follow them all the way through. So again, we designed this with an eye toward replicability with other sectors of the economy. And I say this from both those industries who employ 100 people or those industries who employ 5. One of my best examples that I try to get is I think sometimes when we talk about apprenticeships or pre-apprenticeships or even internships or some opportunities like this to connect in with our CTE programs with workforce development in mind, is people feel like they've got to be a big industry. Well, I've often said that if I run an insurance agency and I've had the same person run my front office for me for 40 years and they're retiring and they have all that institutional knowledge, one of my first calls would probably be to one of our high schools and say, do you have someone interested in this type of work? And pay them to do that certification through Blue Ridge and have them sit right next to Miss Juanita or whoever who knows how to run the company better than the owners do. And that way that transition is not as stark. So just really for anybody listening, if you have an idea about working with us, whether it's an internship, pre-apprenticeship, or apprenticeships, or even sponsoring something like this, call and connect, and we can work with you on that. So really thinking outside of healthcare and just overall, one of the things that I like to remind people is we graduate between 900 and 1,000 students a year, which is 900 to 1,000 adults that are hitting the world, and that opportunity is there. So when we think about captive audience and workforce development, we are the largest producer in the community and will continue to be, and we want to make sure that the things that we offer reflect the needs of the community and also give our students a chance for a career. We don't just talk about jobs, we talk about careers. So here's a couple of pictures there. And just really can't say enough to thank UNC Pardee, Advent Health for being great partners and dreaming along with us, and then for Blue Ridge Community College to come in and help us close the loop on how we can make this possible. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Good job.
If you want to bring my next one up, I'll roll. I'll be efficient. So superintendent's report. General operations, so we've got kindergarten registration. Registrations as of now are at 611. 611, it was 607. We've added 4 more, so we keep trickling up. When we look at ratios from previous year, we're right on track with what we've had each year. And of course, we'll get a big rush in the summer as well. It's School Library Month and Occupational Therapy Month. We have our NC Scholars Luncheon at 11:30. On the 17th, so later this week. Annual Leave Day in honor of celebration of Good Friday. That is no school for all of our calendars. Special Olympics of Henderson County Spring Games is at 9:30. That's the opening event is at 9:30 at East Henderson High School on April the 25th. If you have never been to this, you need to see it. I have been in 4 different school districts now in various capacities, actually 5 if you count my teaching in Tennessee, and all of them have had impressive Special Olympics, but all pale in comparison to what I've seen Henderson County do, not only as a district, but as a community. So it is outstanding, and East Henderson are great to host it every year. We have the Education Foundation celebration on April the 29th at 5:30 at Point Lookout Vineyards. That's a new venue this year for the Ed Foundation. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which was great. We had the presentation today and the things that we're doing as a district. Asian American Pacific Islander Month. Our CTE Scholars Reception will be at 12:30 p.m. at Blue Ridge Conference Hall on the Blue Ridge campus. And then School Lunch Hero Day is May the 2nd. National Teacher Appreciation Week is May 5th through the 9th. May 7th is National School Nurse Day. Your school tours this month or in May will go to Atkinson Elementary. You'll get to see all that new flooring and the gym floor. Innovative High School and Apple Valley Middle School. Our Teacher of the Year luncheon will be at 12 p.m. At the main event on Main Street. Later that afternoon will be the retirement celebration we host every year in that same venue. That's a long day, but it is a very exciting day, and we're able to do at 12 and at 5:30. Our regular board meeting is May the 12th. That is where you will finalize your budget request that will go to the county, because statutorily we have to have that request in by the 15th of May. And then 15th of May is Top Scholars Banquet at 6 o'clock, again at Blue Ridge Community College in their conference hall. May 26th, Memorial Day, no kids or no school for everyone. And then May the 30th will be all of the commencements. So Henderson County Early College will begin at 5. Hendersonville High School and North Henderson High School will kick off at 6. East Henderson High School and Henderson County Career Academy will be at 7. And then West Henderson High School traditionally brings in the backside there in the caboose at 7:30.
Didn't the early college, didn't they used to graduate earlier in May?
They did, but they were on a different calendar. So they were able to start earlier. So now we all start together.
They have to graduate, I think, before.
They don't have to. They don't have to. So innovative high schools have the,
Yeah, I
remember,
thought they did it with the college earlier, but,
not since I've been here.
okay.
The cooperative innovative high schools have the full calendar waiver, so they can do whatever calendar they want. So a lot of those calendars, most of them in the state, operate on the college schedule and do graduate a little bit earlier. But now that we're graduating in May,
Okay,
we graduated together.
gotcha.
And that is my report, ma'am. If there's anything else, I'll be glad to answer.
If we're coming to the Special Olympics, I know you sent out something about T-shirts. Are we supposed to meet up with you somewhere, or do we need to do anything?
So
Okay.
easiest thing to do is when you get there is kind of hover around the concession area, because what they typically do is we'll walk right across into the infield and you get a really good front row of the parade. So if you'll just kind of gather around that concession area on the home side of the East Henderson Stadium.
As far as the T-shirts go, I will, as soon as I receive them, I'll reach out to you guys. I'm assuming it'll be before the, special or in the guys.
Thank you.
Second, third, fourth.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
And before y'all scatter, thank you for today. I know it is a long day, but a lot of good work was done today, and that'll help us for our May meeting. We'll have all that information that y'all requested, and that's when we will ask you to codify your request for your local budget.